The mystery of John Tokuhara's murder, a tale of betrayal and investigation. In January 2022, a man walked into an independent healthcare clinic in Oahu, Hawaii, dressed peculiarly in a bucket-style hat, sunglasses, and 2 scarves. Less than a minute later, 48 seconds to be precise, he exited the premises. Inside, the lifeless body of 47-year-old John Tokuhara was soon discovered. Despite the seemingly abundant evidence left at the scene, security camera footage, multiple shell casings, and even the hat the suspect abandoned, the case quickly proved far more complex than it initially appeared. Identifying the killer would become a grueling and seemingly insurmountable challenge. Hello, I'm Kevin, and welcome to Just Thought Lounge. Today, we're diving into an intriguing and lesser-known case from Hawaii. This story follows an investigation and prosecution that left many stunned. What began as a seemingly straightforward case with all clues pointing in one direction soon unraveled as new evidence surfaced and old assumptions were called into question. The clarity of what happened was clouded as more details emerged. Let's uncover the layers of this fascinating case. The town of Oahu is nestled in Honolulu County, Hawaii, along the northern shores of Middle Loch and West Loch of Pearl Harbor. Once home to a thriving sugarcane plantation, this community on the island of Oahu has since grown to a modest population of approximately 40,000 residents. It is just a short drive from the scenic Iwa Beach, a favorite spot for locals and tourists alike. On the warm, clear morning of Thursday, January 13, 2022, Lily Tokuhara decided to visit her son, John. John, aged 47, had owned and operated a healthcare clinic in Oahu for nearly 2 decades. The previous evening, he had assured his mother he would stop by to pick up the dinner she had prepared for him. But John never showed up. Concerned, Lily drove to his acupuncture and healthcare clinic at around 8 a.m. Upon arriving, she noticed her son's white Toyota Tacoma truck parked near the clinic entrance. Entering through the back door, which was unlocked, she saw the front door had been secured with a chain for over 6 months and was no longer in use. What she found inside was devastating. John lay motionless on the floor of his office, a pool of blood forming beneath his head. Overcome with shock, Lily called emergency services but was unable to render any aid. Tragically, it was already far too late. Officer John Minter from the Honolulu Police Department was the first to arrive on the scene. He quickly located a single spent .22 caliber shell casing on the floor. A subsequent search uncovered 2 additional casings, one beneath John's body and another near the refrigerator. The autopsy later confirmed John had been shot 4 times in the head, with all injuries focused on the face. This brutal and cold execution-style killing suggested a crime of passion. Oddly, $4,000 in cash was found nearby, untouched. If the killer knew about the money, it was clear robbery was not the motive. The evidence pointed to a deeply personal vendetta, but the swift and detached execution hinted at something more calculated. John Tokuhara was unmarried and had no children. He was deeply cherished by his close-knit family and lifelong friends, particularly close to his mother Lily. John was also a doting uncle to his sister's 2 sons. A lover of the ocean, he enjoyed fishing, surfing, and paddling. After earning a master's degree in Chinese medicine and acupuncture, he established his own clinic, serving the Oahu community for nearly 20 years. The news of John's murder sent shockwaves through the local community. This tragedy has really brought the community together here in Oahu. Everyone, friends, family, neighbors, has rallied around to support the Tokuhara family, a friend shared. John was a healer in every sense. Through his clinic, he helped countless people. He gave scholarships and always prioritized the community. His life was taken away, but his legacy of love and service remained strong. Investigators began piecing together John Tokuhara's life, yet no clear suspects emerged. Friends and family only spoke of his kindness and dedication, leaving detectives grasping for a motive. To unravel the mystery, investigators meticulously reconstructed his movements and interactions leading up to his death. 2 cell phones were found on John's desk. One was his primary device, while the other appeared to function only when connected to Wi-Fi. According to those close to him, this second phone was primarily used for playing Pokemon Go, a hobby John enjoyed. The app had been active on this device since 5:40 p.m. the previous evening, with the phone shutting down around 8:45 p.m. due to a dead battery. Whether John was actively playing or if the killer interrupted his game was unclear. John's mother revealed she had last received a text from him at approximately 6 p.m., arranging to pick up his dinner. That text marked the final activity on his main device, sent at 6:18 p.m. After that, silence. With this timeline in mind, investigators turned their attention to security camera footage from the area surrounding the acupuncture clinic. They hoped it might provide clues about anything or anyone suspicious. Roughly 3 minutes before 6 p.m., cameras captured a white four-door Chevrolet Silverado pickup truck with Hawaii plates turning north onto Wahoo Depot Street from Farrington Highway. The truck made several quick turns before passing an intersection a few streets over from the clinic, then disappeared from view. Moments later, however, an individual was seen on foot near the next junction. The person walking toward Wahoo Depot Street and approaching the clinic's back entrance wore a light-colored bucket-style hat, dark sunglasses, and a scarf covering their head and neck. They also carried a brown shopping bag. At 6:16 p.m., the individual entered John Tokuhara's office, coinciding with the last recorded activity on John's main cell phone. Shockingly, just 48 seconds later, the same figure exited the building. No one else was observed entering or leaving until Lily arrived the next morning at 8 a.m. As the white Silverado drove past businesses on Wahoo Depot Street, surveillance cameras captured the truck's front license plate. Law enforcement enhanced a still image from the footage, identifying the plate's format, 3 letters followed by 3 numbers. However, the exact characters could not be discerned. The vehicle itself bore no distinguishing marks, and its truck bed appeared empty. Nevertheless, it was the strongest lead investigators had. The Honolulu Police Department's Strategic Enforcement Detail identified 53 white 4-door Silverado trucks in Hawaii that matched their criteria, likely a 2014-2016 model with a license plate format of 3 letters and 3 numbers. Systematically, investigators eliminated 52 of these vehicles by cross-referencing photographs, visiting locations to inspect trucks in person, and verifying ownership. Only one Silverado remained on their list, a vehicle registered to 34-year-old Eric Thompson, a former client of John Tokuhara. Eric Thompson, a successful contractor, had once sought treatment from John for carpal tunnel syndrome. While this established a connection between the two men, it seemed insignificant. Eric, married to his high school sweetheart Joyce and father to their 3-year-old daughter, did not fit the profile of a likely suspect. What reason could Eric possibly have had to murder a man who had treated him years earlier? As detectives dug deeper into John's life, they found critical evidence on his primary cell phone. Thousands of messages, over 5,600 exchanged within a single month, revealed a romantic and highly intimate relationship between John and a woman named Joyce Thompson. Their messages included nude photos, videos, and explicit conversations, pointing to a prolonged affair that ended abruptly nearly 7 months before John's death. The affair unraveled when Joyce's husband Eric discovered her infidelity. According to the messages, John was far more emotionally invested in the relationship than Joyce. From mid to late July 2021, John pressed Joyce to leave her husband and commit to a future with him. While Joyce had been a willing participant in the affair, she made it clear she was unwilling to leave her marriage. By July, Joyce grew increasingly anxious about the affair's secrecy and its potential impact on her marriage. In one message, she revealed that Eric had caught her sneaking out of their home at 1 a.m. while he was away for work. Under pressure, Joyce confessed to the affair. She promised Eric she would end things with John, and the couple decided to focus on repairing their marriage. Joyce and Eric's history seemed idyllic at first glance. They met at Kalani High School in East Honolulu and were married on January 14, 2017, the day of their 13th anniversary as a couple. The ceremony took place at a beachfront estate owned by a neighbor and was attended by family and friends. The Thompsons later moved to Kiwa, a community roughly 30 minutes from Wahoo. Together, they shared significant milestones, including Eric's graduation from the University of Hawaii and the birth of their daughter 2 years before John's murder. Ironically, it was their desire to have a child that first connected Joyce to John Tokuhara. Referred by a former high school teacher, Joyce initially sought John's expertise for fertility treatments and relief from back pain. Tragically, this followed a heartbreaking miscarriage that deeply affected the couple. The couple was doing everything they could to conceive at the time. Eric believed that John Tokuhara's treatments were helping both of them, and initially they were. However, after the birth of their daughter, Joyce's appointments with John continued, and it appears their professional relationship evolved into something more. These revelations placed both Joyce and Eric Thompson under scrutiny as persons of interest. On January 13, 2022, authorities officially launched a murder investigation into the death of John Tokuhara. During a press conference, law enforcement revealed that their investigation had uncovered a direct link between John and the suspected perpetrator, suggesting this was not a random act. Detectives also disclosed that the victim had been involved in a romantic relationship with a woman now identified as Joyce Thompson, and that her husband Eric was also a person of interest. Search warrants were executed on the Thompson residence, their vehicles, and their persons. Both Eric and Joyce retained attorneys and were uncooperative with investigators. On the evening of John's murder, Eric was seen leaving his home in Kiwa at approximately 5:20 p.m., driving his white 2014 Silverado. The truck headed in the direction of the highway, but gaps in camera coverage along the route prevented a continuous tracking of its movements to the acupuncture clinic in Wahoo. Nevertheless, the timeline aligned. Google Maps data indicated that the 37-minute drive time from Eric's home to Wahoo Depot Street was consistent with the Silverado's appearance on surveillance footage at 5:57 p.m. Eric was later seen returning to his home at 6:47 p.m. Neighbors' cameras captured additional activity that raised suspicions. Less than an hour after his return, a fire was visible in the Thompson backyard. The glow lasted about 5 minutes, suggesting an attempt to destroy evidence. That night, Eric left his house again. This time, surveillance footage captured a crossbox, typically used for storing tools, in the bed of his truck, a new addition not seen earlier. When he returned at 10:43 p.m., the box was still in the truck. Investigators executed a thorough search of the Thompson property, but found little direct evidence linking Eric or Joyce to the crime. However, circumstantial evidence continued to mount. A bucket and wheelbarrow in the backyard showed burn marks, consistent with recent use to dispose of items by fire. Police also seized Eric's firearm collection, which included 12 registered guns and 2 unregistered firearms. Among these were 2.22 caliber rifles, the same caliber as the suspected murder weapon. However, ballistics testing confirmed that none of the weapons matched the rounds used in John's murder. Suspicion then turned to the crossbox seen in Eric's truck that night. Adding to the circumstantial case were over 1,000 rounds of .22 caliber ammunition found in Eric's home. Investigators also uncovered a critical piece of evidence left behind by the suspect at the scene, a light-colored bucket hat. Surveillance footage showed the bucket hat falling to the ground as the gunman fled Wahoo Depot Street. It remained there for approximately 10 minutes before being picked up by a passerby, a homeless man who later hung it in his tent and never wore it again. Police located the man and retrieved the hat. Forensic analysis of the hat revealed fibers and a hair sample, along with 2 DNA samples swabbed from the rim and crown. While the results were not definitive, Eric Thompson could not be excluded as the source of the DNA. On February 14, 2022, Eric Thompson was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and the use of a firearm in the commission of a felony. He posted a $1 million bond and began preparing for his trial. His legal team announced that Eric would plead not guilty. When the trial commenced in July 2023, the prosecution's case centered on motive and the brutal nature of the crime. They emphasized that John had been shot 4 times in the head, indicating an anger-fueled personal attack. The state portrayed Eric as a controlling perfectionist, someone deeply invested in maintaining a facade of a perfect marriage and life. Prosecutors presented a narrative of a man who had built a successful contracting business, saved for a $2 million dream home, and felt his life crumble when he learned of his wife's affair. Messages between John and Joyce, totaling over 5,600, revealed an intensely intimate relationship, including explicit photos and videos. They also highlighted that Eric had uncovered the affair not once, but 4 separate times, each discovery further eroding his trust and stoking his anger. To Eric, the prosecution argued this wasn't just an affair. It was a personal affront to his identity, his marriage, and the perfect life he had worked so hard to achieve. Eric Thompson's prosecution painted him as a man who decided that the only way to reclaim his perfect life was to eliminate the person threatening it. The state argued that as long as John Tokuhara was alive, Eric's marriage and his image of an idyllic existence would remain irreparably tarnished. They asserted that Eric meticulously planned the murder, attempting to execute the crime with precision to avoid detection. He thought he could get away with murder, the prosecution said, but he failed, thanks to the relentless efforts of HPD. Investigators had combed through weeks of surveillance footage, analyzed evidence meticulously, and unraveled what seemed to be a clear case. However, when the defense presented its case, the narrative began to shift, and so did the perception of John Tokuhara. The defense brought forth witnesses who painted a very different picture of John, a man who had a history of engaging in affairs with women already in relationships. Testimony revealed that Joyce Thompson was not the first married woman John had become romantically involved with, nor would she be the last. Among the most damning claims was the account of John DeMarco, whose marriage had ended after his ex-wife began an affair with John Tokuhara. Like Joyce, she had been one of John's acupuncture clients. DeMarco testified that the affair led to his divorce, though he later remarried and claimed to harbor no ill will toward John. "He became a father figure to my daughter after the divorce," DeMarco explained, adding that he had moved on and wished to focus on his children. The defense also pointed to other allegations that cast John in a less favorable light. Text messages recovered from his phone suggested involvement in illegal gambling, and $4,000 in cash, found at the crime scene in large bills, was never fully investigated. Eric's attorney argued that the gambling activities, as well as other illicit dealings, presented alternative motives for murder that had not been properly explored. The defense introduced another man, Daryl Fueg, whose relationship had ended after his partner became involved with John. Although police had initially investigated Fueg as a potential suspect, he had a solid alibi and was ultimately cleared. Nevertheless, Fueg admitted to deleting data from his phone before speaking to investigators, a move he described as a protective measure. "I understand why they looked at me," Fueg stated during testimony, "but I think it's ridiculous. I had nothing to do with this." Both DeMarco and Fueg denied any involvement in John's murder. They placed the blame for their failed relationships on their respective ex-partners rather than on John, and each testified that they had moved past the pain and anger of those events. When Eric Thompson took the stand, he recounted his own experience upon discovering Joyce's affair. He described feeling blindsided and betrayed, especially given how John had once been a trusted figure in their lives. "John helped us with our fertility issues. He was there when we were trying to have our daughter. To find out that he would betray us like this, I just couldn't believe it." Eric recalled the night he first realized something was wrong. After watching security footage of Joyce sneaking out at night, he confronted her. "I couldn't make sense of it. I kept asking myself, where is she going? Why would she do this? I was angry and disappointed. It felt like everything was falling apart." Eric claimed that his initial reaction was to confront John directly, but ultimately decided against it. "I thought about calling him, chewing him out, but I realized it wouldn't make a difference. What could I say to someone who clearly didn't care about my family?" According to Eric, Joyce agreed to end the affair, and they worked on repairing their relationship. Over time, he believed they had regained the happiness they once shared. "She apologized. She cut him off completely. We moved on, and John became irrelevant to us," Eric testified. "I realized the problem was between me and Joyce. We both had to make an effort to fix it, and we did." When questioned about the Silverado seen near Wahoo on the night of the murder, Eric denied that the truck was his. "That's not my truck," he stated firmly when presented with a surveillance image, "and I wasn't in Wahoo that night." The defense asked directly, "Did you kill John Tokuhara on January 12th or January 13th, 2022? "No, I didn't," Eric Thompson stated resolutely. During cross-examination, the prosecution challenged Eric's apparent acceptance of Joyce's betrayal. They probed for inconsistencies, questioning the depth of his knowledge about the affair. "Did your wife tell you that she said 'I love you' to John Tokuhara?" the prosecutor pressed. Eric hesitated before responding. "Yes," he admitted. "At some point, yeah, they were." Further questioning revealed Eric had seen family photos and videos on Joyce's phone. but maintained that he never accessed messages, photos, or videos shared between her and John. The prosecution was skeptical. "So, you never looked through her phone after discovering the affair?" "Correct," Eric replied. "I never looked at her phone." 11 days before John's murder, Eric and Joyce signed a postmarital agreement. The prosecution portrayed this as a coercive move, alleging that Eric forced Joyce to sign the agreement. In contrast, the defense argued it was Joyce's idea, a gesture to prove her commitment and fidelity. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury was deadlocked. Judge Paul Wong declared a mistrial, with 9 jurors voting guilty and 3 for acquittal. "I feel like the evidence wasn't concrete," one juror explained. "It was hard to get everyone to agree on one decision." The defense expressed optimism about a retrial. "The media's first impressions of this case didn't tell the whole story. We look forward to presenting more evidence next time," Eric's attorney stated. A second trial was initially scheduled for October 2023, but was postponed indefinitely. As of now, no new date has been set. That concludes the case of John Tokuhara and Eric and Joyce Thompson. Thank you for joining me, and a special thanks to True Crime with Stephanie Michelle for your support. Be sure to check out their channel for more riveting stories. For now, I'm Kevin, and this is Just Thought Lounge. I'll see you in the next one.